Welcome to the Army Empire Podcast, your go-to podcast for insightful tips on investment strategies, entrepreneurship, and all things money matters. Join Bernard Alerte, your guide on this journey to financial freedom. Each episode will dive into expert advice, practical strategies, and inspiring stories to help you take control of your financial future. Whether you're an aspiring entrepreneur or a seasoned investor, we've got something for everyone. So get ready to unlock your financial potential and make your money work for you. And now, let's welcome your host, Bernard Alerte.
We're back.
Good evening. How you doing, Liz?
Good. How are you doing, Bernard?
Excited to be here. I'm solo today.
You are solo after 3 consecutive episodes with the wife, with the missus.
Yes. I told her, come to no, I'm done. He's like, I did my assignment. I'm done.
Yes. Those last 3 episodes, guys, if you guys did not watch it about faith and finances, they were absolutely amazing. Hey guys, tell us where you're watching from. I see my husband. He is in Davenport. I'm in Naples right now. He's saying, good evening, coach. Tell us where you're watching from. We are live on Instagram. We're live on Facebook. We're live on YouTube. Share this information because this topic is just as good as all of the other ones. Bernard, what are we talking about today?
We're talking about debt. And what made me talk about that the other day, because I was talking to someone and I was like, listen, we have to get a game, get you. I was like, no, he's like, I'll never be out of debt. I just know it. It's never going to happen. And I realized, oh my gosh, and there's so many people that feel that way, that they think they'll never get out of debt because some people have been out of debt for a long time. They'll never get out of it. Some people tried. But yes, you can get out of debt. Specific things you're going to have to do. And we want to talk about taking the myth out of becoming debt free. That is not something that is like, oh my God, that's like a dream. That's like, yes, you can become debt free. There is ways. There's certain things you're going to have to do, certain disciplines you have to follow, which is we can't get into everything today, but we're going to talk about becoming debt free and also make sure valuing your credit. Also, we're going to talk a little bit about that also, which is very important step to become financial independent.
Awesome. Hey, Robert, how you doing? We got both Roberts on right now.
Yes.
Roberts are in the house.
Yes. Both Robs. I mean, of all the threats to your financial security, none is more dangerous than debt. There's nothing more that, if you think, what's the one thing that keeps people up at night? They're stressed out over it. Some people are afraid to pick up their phones. Now it's just the craziest things. It's craziest thing what happens. Like when you see those weird numbers, Pam, and you think it's like people afraid. They're just afraid to pick up their phones, and it's crazy. Somebody was like, I asked someone the other day, and they were like, "Oh my God!" People are like, "You're not gonna pick up?" No, I'm not gonna pick that up because I know what it is. So it's like it's the weirdest thing, but the debt is one of the things that can definitely rob you. It's very dangerous, and if you don't manage it right, and if you don't pay attention to it, if you don't understand it, and it can rob you if you can sleep and just your whole financial future can rob you pretty much. Absolutely. I mean, and it's a big problem out there. If you think about that, especially happening this past couple of years, how this is some of the facts happening. That is a serious problem these days, right? I mean, household debt climbs to 17.6 trillion in the first quarter. Delinquency rates rise again, is going crazy in 2024 last year. Consumers are collectively a 1.12 trillion in credit card debt. I want you to think about average credit cards between 21%, 18, 21, 24%. So who's winning here? Is the credit card companies win? The banks are winning here, right? Only 1 in 5 adults say they have no retirement savings. And more than half are worried they will never have enough to support them in retirement because that's a concern because they have so much debt. It was just they had so much debt. So it's a big concern that people have, and that's hurting them because I come across all the time. It's like, listen, let's get you saving some money. I have too much debt. I have to carry this debt. I don't know how to do it. And sometimes that stops people from getting ahead because of that.
Yeah. Very true.
Different things, right? This is the chart that shows you basically, and one of the debts that's gone up so much is student loan debt, right? Tells you the charge in trillions, right? Credit card debt has been going up. The quarter, you see that it's a trend. It's just going up. It's just going up. In other words, right? If you think about auto loans going up, right? Cars are getting more and more expensive these days. and you're higher these days, right? Other debt people have, student loan debt. If you look at on the top of that, and student loan, there's a debt that, you know, as you and I know, it never goes away. You have to pay it off.
Yeah, it never goes away. Listen, my husband pays student loans. I pay student loans. We both pay student loans for our kids, for our
Exactly.
son. Yeah, Eileen says she's coming back to talk about credit.
Yeah, she will. She will definitely. And it's so important to do that. So those are the things that are affecting to people aware. It's just going up. All right. So what are some things? One of the things, you have to be in the know. Okay. You have to be in the know. Sometimes one of the things I hear people, I don't want to know. Like, I don't want to know how much. You have to be in the know. And one thing you have to know is you got to know your credit score. Okay. You have to know what your credit score is, right? Because the things you have to be in, you have to know your credit score. Number one, that's one of the things you have to know. You have to know how much debt you have.
Yeah.
You gotta know how much debt you have. You can't be like, you have to know how much debt you have, and you have to have a debt freedom day. When will that be paid off? It's okay if you're in debt, it's fine, but you gotta have set a game plan to know, okay, this is why I'm debt. This is why we do some called like a financial needs analysis for a lot of our clients. It takes a look at, for example, exactly how much debt you have, the balance of your debt, right? How much you're paying every month, the interest rates, your interest rates you're getting charged, and it shows you based on how you're paying when you be out of debt, and it gives you specific strategies how to pay it off so much faster. So you got to have a debt freedom date. I tell people all the time, there's three numbers that you need to know, that you have to know when it comes to your financial future. We call number one is, you call it income protection number, right? Which is the amount of life insurance you need to have to make sure that your family's taken care of. You need to have what that number is. You need to know what it is. The second number, you need to know your financial independence number, FIN, right? Which tells you basically is how much money are you going to need to have by the time you retire so you can stay retired. How much money do you need to have so you can retire to be okay and stay retired? And the third one, you got to know your debt freedom date. You have to know, you have to get a game plan to get out of that. You need to know that debt freedom date. That's so important.
That's really good. And I think that those are two things that people don't know. A lot of folks don't know their credit score. And they also don't know, sadly, they also don't know what their date for freedom, what that date for debt freedom
date. Absolutely, right?
That's true. That's true.
And the third one is when if you look at the last, but when were you ever thinking about people concerned about their finances, their debt, right? And again, why is it important to be in the know? See, right? So no matter what your personal debt situation, you can't afford not to be in the know. Why that? Because in this economy, it's more important ever to take steps to getting out of debt, because it's just so much, right? You have to get out of that. You need to know your credit. Listen, it's getting harder than ever to obtain loans as bank tightens their lending standards, right? It's so much harder to get into that. I mean, and if you think what happened before the not the pandemic, the crash that we had over like 2007, 2008, because the lending stand was so loose, anybody can get it. If you had a pulse, you can get a loan. I remember there was a time like if you had a job and you could buy a $400,000 house and you're making $30,000 a year, and it caused a lot of problems. So because the banks learn from that, so why not? They're very strict. They're very strict in what they have. They're very strict on the credit. It's so important to have the right credit score. It's craziest thing that happened is become more than cash. Having a good credit score is actually more valuable than cash sometimes. It's a sad part. It's a reality.
Yeah, somebody needs to put that in the comments. Having a good credit score is more valuable than cash.
Absolutely. I mean, I'm not if you tell the bank I have $100,000 cash saved up versus I have access to $100,000 credit, or I can, that's if for some reason they look at it as more valuable assets to have that. Even I had someone, and let's look at the next slide, right? What are the things? A good credit score can determine a lot of things these days. You can get the best interest rate that you need to borrow money. It can affect you a lot. It's a difference between someone that has, let's say, 600 credit score and versus 750 high credit score is $200-$300 a month, sometimes $400 a month difference, right? So if you think about it, you'll pay if someone has on an average mortgage, you pay between 600 to let's say 750, a good credit score, you might pay $200-$400 a month more, right? So if you look at the math over a 20-30 year time frame, right, what does that do for you? If you take $200-$300 or more a month, if you invested that money, if you invested that money, that's a couple hundred accounts. So you, by not having a good credit score, you're probably losing potential $3, $4, $500,000 extra cash every retirement.
Right.
Right. If you need to borrow, qualify for the best credit card deals. I mean, listen, I think you need credit cards these days. It's not, I'm not gullible to say you need credit cards these days, but if you have, you can actually get the best credit the cards out there, right? That has maybe have some perks, right, out there also. So it's important that you might get like a 0% or 5%. That's very low, right? In other words, and as long as you're using effective, where you actually you're using the cards and you're paying it off at the end of the month, if you have that discipline, so you can take advantage of the best deals out there, right? The cost of your homeowners or car insurance, that determines also. They look at your homeowner, they look at for homeowners insurance or car insurance. A lot of states determine how much you pay. You might pay more money if someone has a better. They actually give you when you get a car insurance, they actually do a soft pull on your credit, and that determines how much they charge you. You might be paying $100, $200, $300 a month more because of that. Whether you're approved to rent a house or an apartment.
Yep.
That's they look at it. If landlords look at that, right, to make sure you have. Listen, I had someone that I knew that had the cash. The credit wasn't good, but they had the cash, and they even told landlord, listen, I'll pay you 8 months in advance, 7-8 months in advance, and they said no. Literally. So that tells you that credit is more important. A lot of times, more important than cash. Having a good credit score, right? Yep. And it's crazy. Even when you're getting a car loan, sometimes they don't even look at your income. Sometimes, because listen, I mean, we get a past couple of cars. They don't even look at. You could put any income there in the application. In other words, right? You get in the car. They don't even look at your income. They don't ask you for pay stubs or anything like that. The bank, they say, okay, they look at, oh, you're approved for this, you're approved for that. So they just look at your credit.
Look at your credit score, and they could tell how much
they'll give you any car. They'll give you any car. Literally, you don't have to literally. They don't ask for anything, right? And it's a crazy. So that tells you, right? So what are 5 most common credit mistakes out there? Not valuing credit is important. Not thinking it's important. Not valuing how important it is. Is crucial, and that's very important. We have to teach young people that. And this is a mistake I made a lot of times, and not being important, because I was reckless when I was younger. I admit that. I was like, oh my gosh, I'll just make more money. It's okay, no big deal. I won't pay. No, right? And not paying attention to that, right, is crucial. Hurts you. And I had to learn the hard way, right? A lot of times, right? Raising credit card limits. Sometimes people try to raise their credit card limit a lot of time, but they're raising their credit card limit to what? That allows them to borrow more sometimes. So they get into more debt. They use it for the wrong reasons. Wrong reasons. So you raise it, your credit card. I want to raise my credit card limit. Are you using? Because listen, if you know you're gonna buy a house 6 months, 9 months, or something like that, they actually look. If you look at, we're gonna talk about. They look at how much access to credit you have. And that determines that might increase your credit score. But if you're raising your credit card limit so you can actually borrow more money, get into more debt, that's a red flag right there, that you can't do that, right? Not monitoring your credit history, right? How often you should look. You shouldn't be like every day look at it, but at least once a month or once every couple of weeks, just pull it up. And it's very easy. I mean, there's so many credit cards. There's so many different places you can look at what's your credit history, right? Not monitoring your credit score, not paying attention to it is crucial to know that, right? Number 5, not knowing interest rates and fees associated with your debt. Are you surprised how many people don't know how much interest they're paying on that card? They don't know how much interest they're paying on credit cards. You're just paying, and you don't even know. They don't even know how much. You need to know.
We need to take a look at all of those things.
Exactly.
That's good. I like what Robert Brown is saying here. He says you need to have a low, which is what you said, a low credit utilization percentage. Yes. How much of your credit are you using?
Under 30, the ideal is 30% and under. 30% and under. What does that actually mean? That means if you have a balance, if you have a credit card access, the credit card limit is $1,000. You shouldn't have more. You should not owe more than $300.
Look at that.
You should not owe more than $300. If you have 10, you should not owe more than that. So that's very important to know. So knowing interest rates, you need to know. Take back and look at, if you have your debt, how much amount you paying for that? Because you're robbing your future sometimes, right?
Yeah.
Because of that, not knowing.
Yeah. Yeah, and credit card interest can easily be 27, 32%.
32%, absolutely.
That's so
100%.
good.
It's so true. So those are things that happen. So if you look at the next slide, what are some things that are affecting your score? Let's look at some things that might be affecting your score, right? 65% of your score is your payment history and amount you owe, right? So your payment history. So if you paid late, right, that affects your score, right? And sometimes, listen, and I always use the analogy, right? To one, you could have paid on time for the longest. You make one little mistake sometimes, and it drop, and it takes years to get it back on track.
Easy. It's crazy.
It's years to get you miss. It's crazy. I think, oh my gosh, I think 5, 6, 7, 8 years ago, something stupid like by one day I didn't pay attention, and one day, and all of a sudden it was like, oh my god, how did it go down? But it was just one, like it was like 4 days later or something. Like I didn't. It's just some stupid. I didn't pay attention, and it caused problems. Right, that happens. So you gotta know your payment history. Get that on track. Right, amount you owe. Right, we talk about that. The length of credit history that determines how much also your credit score. So some people, if you're brand new, you may not have a lengthy credit, so you might give yourself time to do it. Give yourself time. New credit inquiries, right? Not to apply too much out there. Some people apply to a lot of that's not too much out there. Make sure you don't. And one of the biggest mistakes people make when you apply for, like, you get a purchase, right? If you get a purchase, something, you're buying a car, you're buying a home, yes, you have to shop around, but you can't shop around so many different places. And if there's too many inquiries happen, it lowers your credit score.
Right.
Right. And so you have, this is what if you monitor, if you know what your credit score is, you're better off, right? For example, if you're getting a car, for example, sometimes it's better if you can go to a credit union, your bank, and just get a loan from you, get a pre-approved from the bank, because that puts you in a position of power. So when you go shopping for a car, for example, right, you already ahead, because you go to a dealer. If you go to you go buy a Honda, you go to this dealer, you don't like the price they give, you have to go. They're gonna pull your credit score, each of them. Yeah, but doesn't matter. They're gonna pull again.
Yeah.
So those are things you have to be smart. And also the reason to, yes, exactly, run your credit. You're better off going apps 100%, right? And some credit unions, something they give a pretty good car interest and car loans, very important. They give you pretty good rates for that. And also, one thing I always recommend is don't spend a lot of money, don't put a lot of money down on a car and things like that. It's very important, because one thing, see, when your credit is decent, it's pretty good, the less money you have to put down. Money you have to put down on a car, right? But the more, then you have to put this amount of money down. So that's something that's important, because just think about it. If you're doing the right things with your money, if you invest, here's the way I look at it. If you get an interest rate of 5, 6, 7%, you're paying that. If you're investing your money, you're getting 10, 12% interest on your money. If your money in mutual funds, you get 8, 10, 12% average, right? In mutual funds. So what happens when you take money out of that to pay? It's a problem. You're losing potential earnings on your money. That's why I don't believe, because, and also every $1,000 you put down on a car, people don't realize only reduces your car payment by $20 a month.
Yeah, that's so true.
By $20 a month, people think, I want to put, no, you don't put money down, right? Every $1,000 you do. So if you put 5,000 down, you only lower your payment by $100 a month.
Yeah.
But there's 5,000 cash that you don't have an emergency if you had an emergency. Right. So those things are very very important, right?
Wow.
And let's talk about debt cycle versus cash cycle. Do you live within a cash cycle versus a debt cycle? See, when you're in a debt cycle, your finances control you. You're outspending your income. You're borrowing to maintain a lifestyle. You're paying one debt and accruing another debt. Okay, which a lot of people are on a debt cycle. That's why sometimes they feel that they can't get out of it, because they always it's a cycle, right? Versus the cash cycle, right? Versus you control your finances. You have a debt-free mentality. You're paying with cash instead of borrowing. Yes, you should pay with cash on some things, a lot of things, right? And you have investment, savings, and assets. The only way to be out of debt, one of the best way to get out of debt and stay out of debt is to build cash, to build your savings, build an emergency. That's the best way to get out of it. One of the biggest mistakes, and I'll talk about past episodes that people make, they actually take the money that I want to pay off all my debt. So they take all their disposable income to pay off the debt. But guess what happened? You have an emergency. Guess what? You get right back into debt again.
Right.
So the best way is to build savings, right? You build savings while instead of just going like this to pay it off, just graduate, but you build your savings, right? Graduate while you're decreasing your debt. And what happened, it gets to the point that eventually you build savings. So if you have an emergency, you have cash.
Yeah.
You have cash. You don't tap into it.
So the debt and
way to do it. It works. It works in very congruently to build savings, build your investments, and again, now you have to do it. You can't just take everything and pay everything off, because I put you in a bad position to do that, because emergencies happen. That's just part of life. You might be, listen, God forbid, you might get laid off your work. You can't work, and or something happens, or something breaks down, your car breaks down, right? And you have to pay a couple $1,000s and things like that. And
we've seen that. It could be illness, it could be getting laid off, it could be a lot of things. I mean, we've lived it. And thankfully we had, but some people don't, and they don't make it those 3 months.
Absolutely. So you have to work in conjunction. It has to be in conjunction to be able to do it, right? And the last line, and let's become debt free. Yes, it's possible. It's possible. Debt freedom is possible for everyone. Yes, there are many benefits for being debt free. There's a lot of benefits. You can save money and interest by paying cash, right? Instead, you get to regain control of your family budget. You don't feel like you're out of control. You don't have to worry about going to the mailbox, worry about, oh my gosh, what's going to happen? It's bad news, right? You get peace of mind.
Yeah.
You get peace of mind. But you have to rein in spending wants and needs. That's versus wants, things versus things that we need, right? That's deeper, right? And you have more money to save and invest, and you have compound interest working for you instead of against you. We talk about the rule of 72, or how money works for you. So when you have debt, you have compound interest working against you. Working against you. So the key is to have money work for you so you can save as much as possible. Or this situation with debt is important, but that's a different level for most people. People say, well, debt is good. Rich people have debt. It's a different world. Let's just call it what it is. Versus middle America, right? Which most people fall into, versus corporations or business. It's just two different things. It's two different worlds. So you have to be very careful what you listen to. For you as an individual, take care of your family, you need to what? Have a game plan, become debt-free.
Yeah.
You as an individual, yes. If you corporation, yes, some debt is good. Corporations have debt, things like that. Yes. Businesses, sometimes better to borrow than to use. They understand that 100%. But for you as an individual, it's a whole different level out there, right? Because let me tell you, the corporations can wipe out debt a lot faster than you can. Okay, they can write it off if they want to. They have ways to get rid of, so they don't mind doing that.
Right.
Do you understand? Because what happens is when a corporation, right, borrows $1 million, a couple $1 million, guess what happens? Whoever borrowed, they control where it borrows them, so they have to give them better terms. When you owe $1 million to the bank, they control you. Two different things. It's two different levels. So be careful what you listen to. That is good. Be careful. Just be careful what to do, right? There's ways around that, but be careful. For most people, have a game plan, become debt free is very, very important.
Yeah. And I love that we always touch on the part, and we notice that you always touch on the part when it comes to like discipline. And if you're able to discipline yourself regarding the needs and the wants and all of those things, and just how much are you going to spend, that also plays a role in it. If we can discipline ourselves, if we could follow the advice and the counsel of our financial advisor, we too can be debt free. Yes, so we're taking the myth out of becoming debt free. What a great topic.
Absolutely.
Listen, that email is scrolling below. Make sure you reach out to Bernard, even if it's just to say, man, I heard that podcast and it was It was good. Or I learned something new. Go ahead and share that because we like to know what it is. And if there's something in a topic that you want to know more about,
Absolutely. Let us
send
know.
that information. Let us know. Let us know so that we can continue to give the audience, you all, what you need. Because man, I don't know about you, but I'm learning a ton of information here.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Thank you so much.
Appreciate it. We're very excited. We're very excited. And listen, and we're gonna add more to it. Like Eileen, we're gonna talk more how things, credit, things that things to do on top of that, more and more details. So, but that's one aspect of it, to want people to be aware. Yes, you can become debt free and have the right mindset to have when it comes to that.
Yes, we can do it. We can do it. We're all striving. We're striving to become
yes.
debt free. So let's do it together. Yes, my husband said this was so good. It was really good, really good. So thank you so much for sharing that light and encouraging us to know that yes, we can be debt free as well. Bernard, we'll see you next Tuesday.
Your next Tuesday. Excited.
And we're gonna do this again. We'll see you on next Tuesday here at the Army Empire Podcast. Thank you, guys. Bye, Bernard. See you next time.
Thank you.
All right. Bye-bye.
Thanks for tuning in to the Army Empire Podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to subscribe and share it with your friends. Join us next week for another exciting edition, and until then, keep building your empire.